Welcome to the Writer's Game Podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. And now, let's get into the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Writer's Game Podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. We have somebody special on here today. Somebody that recently just dropped a book and is getting ready to shift the world, is getting ready to use her story to magnify your voice and monetize your message. Somebody that is used to being behind the computer screen, but she's going to leverage her story to being able to help you step out of the computer screen, look at her book so that it can shift your life. Sonia, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. So could you introduce yourself and tell us how you're using your voice and your story to shaping lives?
My name is Sonia Scott, and I am the author of Queen Life Reincarnated. My story is basically, I started to write this book back in like February of, I want to say 2013. So it's been a while before I put it out. It was a very emotional book for me because it has like a lot of real time, instances that went on with it. And some of my own experiences, basically. So it took me a little bit to kind of get over some of the things that happened in the book to complete the entire book. So when I finally got the courage to go ahead and just finish writing it, I decided to just go full throttle and put it out there.
I think there's so many authors and even people right now, right? And I think what you said is so powerful. There's so many authors and even people right now that don't want to write the book because there's a lot of emotions and there's a lot of, interestingly, when you're going through the writing process, there's a lot of unpacking that has to happen. You got to relive emotions, you got to relive, certain circumstances or even certain traumas. Can you talk a little bit about the process of still writing through the experience, through the emotion, and then also the result of how you felt once it was finished?
So once you get to a point to when you're starting to write and you're talking about something traumatic, right? The first thing is you're going to live through that again because you have to think about every detail when you're writing a book because you're trying to draw your audience into your scene, of course. So you're going to relive every detail. It's going to be that part where you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But the best advice I can give a new writer when doing that, or any writer, is accept it, right? It's something that can't be changed. It's something that happened to you and it actually molded you into the person that you are today to even get you to start writing your book, right? So you have to accept it, even if you have to take a moment and, stop writing to kind of think about what happened and accept it for yourself, then that's okay as well. Even if it takes a week, a month, a year, whatever you have to do to get through it, I definitely recommend that. After you get through it, you're able to kind of like gain all of your confidence to go back in. So once you accept it, get through it, you go back in, and it's easier to write. For me, I can't say that's going to work for everybody, but that's the best advice I can give.
When you think about the woman that you were before you wrote your story and the woman that writing your story has allowed you to be, what is the transformation that took place?
Great question. It's a great question. I would say when I think about the woman that when I started writing, she was immature, a little bit naive. So the transformation is, I look at that person, that little girl, and I feel a little sorry for her as I write the story, right? I feel a little sorry for her, wish we could change some things up. But as the story progresses, I kind of feel that, she becomes powerful. So it just makes me feel triumphant because as the story progresses, you see that she changes. She has a little bit more confidence in herself. She does what she wants to do without anyone telling her, what to do. So you just kind of feel a little bit, I guess you sit in your power a little bit more. So.
Okay. I love that, sitting in your power. And you reference her in your story. Is it a specific character that is featured in your story?
Yeah, so there's my book is about a young girl. Her name is Nia Harper, and she lives in New Orleans. Um, she actually is trying to break out of a life that she was living pre-Katrina. So she was already going through like an abusive relationship with her kid's father, and Hurricane Katrina happens, right? So that's a lot for one person to take on all at one time. So when I reference her, it's Nia, the character in the book. Yes.
When you think of Nia, oftentimes, and we've worked with authors around the world at this point, and when we're taking them through the beginning stages of creating their target audience, whether it's a nonfiction book or even in a fictional book, creating that kind of that main character. Oftentimes that person is them internally, right?
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
often write the best stories because we've experienced what our characters currently are experiencing within the story.
Absolutely.
What is the one learning lesson that you've had to master through the seasons that you've experienced within your life?
Um, Another great question. The one thing that I had to master is basically um, living in your truth, right? There's so many people who want to create this facade of who they are, or who they once were. Um, at the end of the day, you are who you are. The experiences that you went through brought you to where you are today. And a lot of the things that I've done, I'm not 100% proud of or um, happy that it happened. However, going through that experience made me the woman that I am today.
When you think about the woman that you are today, because oftentimes we reference the things that we've done or the things that we've experienced that we aren't proud of, right? But when you look at your story and when you look at the person that you've been developed into today, what is something that you truly are proud of?
One thing that I would say that I'm proud of is being a mom. Because of the things that I've gone through, I feel like it makes me a better mom to my children. I can give them the perspective of, if you do it this way, then it may turn out like this. You know what I mean? So it's definitely helped me guide them in life and give them some wonderful advice, on transitioning from a young adult to an adult. So my kids are actually, my oldest is 18, my middle son is 17, and my youngest son is 13. So they're still transitioning into the young adult world, but and living in today's society, definitely it's a challenge because they do things so differently. But I mean, the baseline of everything is pretty much the same. Be a respectful person and things like that. So it helps me to help them.
Of course, of course. When you think about the lesson, right, or the message that you needed to hear, let's go back a year from now, or a year from now, or even 2 years ago, right? There was something that continued to play in your mind. There's something that you needed to hear. There's something, that motivation, that sermon, something. What
Yeah.
was that message that needed to be heard?
Um, there were several. I have a great support system. So I've had several people come to me and give me some great advice, wonderful advice. But the one thing that I think stood out to me the most was I have a mentor. Her name is Mioka McBride. And we had a conversation. We were talking about some business stuff one day. And we were talking, and she's like, well, what is stopping you from moving forward? And I'm like, well, I don't want to put my business out there because I don't want people to look at me different. I'm like, people, you have haters.
Of course.
So she goes, haters, what's that? And she's like, how do you even know you have haters when you're looking forward? All your haters are probably behind you. Your clients and your customers are ahead of you. That's all you should see. You should not see anything else. And when she told me that resonated in me. And I mean, it kind of gave me the push that I needed, because you shouldn't see the people who's going to talk negatively about you. You should only see the positive, because that's what's going to keep you on your path.
When you think about your three children, they're going to experience a world that they're going to encounter similar things that you had to encounter, but just in a different way. What is one thing that you would want to help them master now that will be able to help them overcome challenges that you experience?
Several things I would say, but the main thing is to be who you are. You know what I mean? So just there's going to be a lot of people who's going to find a reason not to like you or find a reason to make your life difficult. And in those instances, you can only do what you know how to do best, and that's be you.
Who would you define yourself as in this season?
Oh. Oh God. Well, my alter ego is Don Diva.
Okay.
So I would definitely have to define myself as being Don Diva in this season because I mean, with the book release and everyone purchasing the book and asking questions, I kind of feel a little bit famous, like a celebrity, you know. So, you know, my little diva side comes out, you know, I toss my hair a little bit, you know.
Okay. When you think about Don Diva, that is a specific person, right?
Yes.
That's, oftentimes we write books and we create characters and we live the life too, because we sometimes put out a persona and create a brand that is creating a character that other people will accept and other people will acknowledge. But what are the things behind the character that social media may see, or that you being an author may represent, that you wish that you could share more of, but you don't feel as if you're ready to share that piece of you?
It's funny that you asked that question because I had a conversation with my niece last night, and we were talking about confidence. And I can say I'm pretty confident. I have a lot of people who know that I'm confident. I'm probably overly confident sometimes. So I wish that I could share with other women, you know, of all, you know, ages, all races, all, you know, shapes and sizes, how to just live in your confidence, no matter if you're tall, you're short, you know what I mean? Long hair, short hair, doesn't matter because every woman, everybody is beautiful. But woman is, for me, it's more so women because I'm a woman, right? So at some point in your life, you have a challenge on accepting yourself, accepting a flaw, your nose, your lips, your eyes, whatever it is, you have that insecurity about yourself. And the moment you realize that it's something that is a part of you that God gave you, and you don't have anything to be ashamed of, that's when you can overcome that feeling of being confident, you know? So I wish I could just share that with everybody.
Let's say everybody's listening to this podcast right now, right? And let's say everybody has tuned in, all of those women, different ethnicities, different shapes, different sizes, different everything, right? And they come to this podcast for a message from you. What would you say to them on the step-by-step process on how to live more confidently?
I would say wake up every morning, take your shower, you know, let the water run through your hair and tell yourself that you're beautiful. Whatever that issue is, or that specific feature that you're not liking about yourself, you have to, in order for anyone else to like you or love you, you have to find it in your own self to love and like yourself. So you constantly have to tell yourself over and over and over again what it is that you feel. If you feel beautiful, be beautiful. If you feel like you want to be a little bit extra today, be extra. Whatever it is that you feel that you want to be, do it.
What is a feeling that you often feel, but you believe society won't accept it when you express it?
That's a great question. I tend to push the barriers, Kyle.
Okay.
So that's a difficult one for me because, you know, society tells you that you shouldn't dress up, you shouldn't wear your expensive stuff unless you're going somewhere. Well, I think differently. Sometimes I feel like I want to put on my fur vest, you know, sometimes I feel like I want to wear my thigh-high boots or whatever, but it doesn't, your clothes does not define you. You know, the person you are defines you. So whatever you decide to do, it's really up to you as long as you're not hurting anybody, I feel. So I can't really answer that one 100% because, like I said, I kind of push the barrier when it comes down to, you know, society telling me what to do. I kind of want to do my own thing. So
I love how you use the word define, right? And I'm really big on words. I feel like a lot of people don't identify with words, but that's something that I really live by. If someone was to look at your name right now in the dictionary, what would the definition say about you?
Well, my name derives from I think it's a Latin. I think it's Latin, I believe so, but it comes from the name Sophia. And after I've looked it up already, it stands for wisdom. But if I had to give my own self a definition, it would say beautiful, intelligent, smart, you know.
How did you get to a point where you were confidently able to say those things about yourself?
Okay, so now you're opening up the the box that I closed a long time ago. But that's okay. Well, like I explained about the character Nia, who went through the abusive relationship. I actually was in a very abusive relationship at a very young age. And that's very damaging, you know, especially being so young. So going through that actually changed my way of thinking, meaning that I wasn't able to see myself anymore because I couldn't understand how a person who loved you could treat you that way. So you know, you kind of start to feel yourself decline a little bit in self-esteem, of course. So I actually met my husband in 2007, and I still wasn't in a great place, you know. So um, just being with him kind of helped uplift me a little bit. You know, we've had our troubles and issues, of course, like any other marriage couple or what have you, but he made me see myself different, you know. I had, like I said, I have a great support system, my mom, my dad, my best friends, and just being in such great energy, you know, it helped me come out of that dark place and see myself for the person that I really am, this great person, this genuine person. So that kind of helped with the confidence, just rallying all of my support system.
I love that. I love that. When you think about the woman that you were when you were going through this tough relationship and the different challenges that you experienced, the different feelings and emotions that you experienced, let's say a woman is going through that right now, a young lady is going through that right now. What would you have to say to her to be able to help her at least get through it and get past it and get over it?
Um, I will tell her that it doesn't get better.
Mm.
Um, One thing that people tend to do when you're going through a situation like that is they want to tell you, just leave. And unfortunately, it's not that easy. You know, you invest in the person that you're with. You have children sometimes, you have finances sometimes. So it's not that easy of just getting up and just leaving. But you have to hear yourself speak, basically. You have to, when you hear that voice telling you that this isn't fair, this isn't right, and you're not happy, listen to it, because that is yourself. You don't need anybody else to tell you that you're not happy or you're not, you know, that this isn't right. You feel that already. So when you can overcome the feeling of trying to stick out the situation, then you can get out of it, but it does not change at all.
That is such an interesting perspective. It really is. And I think about my story in a relationship staying way past its expiration date. It didn't get better, but we trick ourselves in believing that it will get better, or this, I can do this, or I can do that. And you continue to, the longer that you stay, you continue to just lose pieces of who you are and who God calls you to be. And that's a very interesting perspective. What did it take for you to learn that perspective? When did it click for you?
Okay. I had an experience just just off base. I had an experience, and I tried to leave before. I've tried to leave probably many times, but um it was after the hurricane in New Orleans, and I was trying to, of course, regain all of the things that we had already lost and get the kids together and just get my life back on track. And the guy that I was dating then, we had an argument. And I remember me asking him before we came to Houston, and I told him, I said, this is our chance to start a new life. Let's not do things like we did it before. And he agreed. So we went on with our lives and started to try to rebuild. And one day he got upset at someone else, didn't even have anything to do with me. And I tried to calm him down, and he lashed out at me. And I can just remember running up the stairs and praying and just asking God to help me out of the situation. And If he did, then I would never go back. And that was just something that I told myself. And once, I mean, just out of the blue, it's like the guy walked out the door just without any fight, without anything. He didn't say anything. He just left. And I looked up and I go, I'm like, thank you, God. And I'm like confused because I couldn't understand. I'm like, wow, that happened so quickly. And then at that moment, it was like it was a sign for me to say, okay, you told me you're going to do this, keep your promise. And it was like, okay, I have to stand firm on this one. So
That's good. That's so good. That's so good. Oftentimes we are experiencing a story that as we look back, when we've already got through the story, that was really just the story that we were telling ourselves at the time.
mhm.
What was the story that you were telling yourself during this season? And as you look back, what was the real story?
The story that I told myself was he needs me.
Oh,
He needs me. And that was probably what kept me there, was that I felt like if he didn't have me, he wouldn't have anybody. But the real story was I needed myself. I
mm,
needed to get to know who I was, and I needed to be there for me because I'm trying to be there for him, but yet he's not showing me that same, he's not reciprocating that, right? So it's like, okay, if I'm there for him, who's there for me? you know? So that's what it was for me. It was like I had to be there for myself. And that's what I did.
that probably took a toll and some time. What was the first step for you in that process?
Um, it definitely did take a toll, and it did take some time because I'm a firm believer of a solid family, right? You don't want your family to be split up. You want your kids to have their dad, and vice versa. But um, I felt like I was doing them an injustice by staying in that relationship, and I just the first step, I guess, was making sure my children were fine. I never kept them away or anything like that. I just kind of, wanted to make sure that whatever decisions I made didn't affect them, emotionally or physically. I didn't want to damage them in the long run of making this decision. But of course, it was a decision that had to be made. So the first step was making sure that my kids knew that I loved them.
Mm.
So showering them with extra love, even though when I overdid it sometimes. So, and they were very, very young going through this, but, traumas, you remember trauma. So I wanted to make sure that they knew that what we were going through was going to be okay. So that was the first step, was making sure that my children were fine. The next step was loving myself again. So, um, I guess I think that's probably the hardest part, is loving yourself again, because you have gone through this relationship for so long that you lose yourself. So I had to start, finding the things that I liked, identifying the stuff that I love, and kind of like just showering yourself with those things and not worrying about what anyone else has to say, or if they are going to give it to you, or if they're going to accept it. So that's kind of what I did through that process.
I love that. And I think what you just gave anybody listening to this podcast right now is a roadmap, right? And when you think about the things that you've experienced, what is one roadmap that you would love to leave to your children and to your legacy, or even to your community, so that they avoid some of the things that you've experienced?
Um, it's funny because I tell like a lot of my friends this all the time. Get to know a person. We go into things head first and fall in love and just think that, oh my God, this is it. But it's not. so, so because people will show you a side of them that you never would imagine exists, right? And the moment that they show that side to you, you have to believe them, because this is who they are. And it's like, you can't change a person. They have to want to change themselves. And the only thing you can do is you can accept the way that they are, you can leave. And those are the only two things. So get to know the people that you're dealing with, whether it's, relationship wise, romantically, or just friendship or whatever. Just get to know people.
I think that's such a beautiful piece of advice, because I do believe that as people, we just jump into things, or our desires sometimes get in the way of our discernment. So when you think about anything, it takes time to build quality and authentic relationships so that we could be able to really connect on a deeper level. So your book just dropped early February.
Yeah.
You're pushing ahead full steam. What is in store for your book in the future?
So I don't want to give too many details about it because, of course, I want everyone to go out and get it and read it. But I'm actually working on 2 projects right now. One possibly a sequel to Queen Life Reincarnated, and another book that I'm coming out with as well. So I'm trying to prioritize which is going to come next. So I've had a lot of people who's read the book so far say, "Oh, we need to do the sequel."
Sure.
So I don't know. And then I also kind of want to, I'm sorry, my son's dog is barking.
Okay.
But I kind of also want to try to push it into a movie, possibly. So maybe be on the lookout for the movie. I don't know.
Everybody, where can they find your book? Where can they support you? How can they support you?
You can definitely go to my website, which is queendondiva.com. I forgot I changed it. And then I'm also on Amazon. Queen Life Reincarnated is on Amazon, as well as Barnes and Nobles.
Okay. When you think about one message, if everybody in the world, not just women, just one message that you could communicate in 60 seconds, that every single soul in the world would have to feel, hear, and implement, what would be your one message to the world?
It actually is not a message from me. It's actually a message from a good friend of mine. And he was actually a big part of pushing this off as well, because I was very nervous when trying to put the book out, exposing, the things that happened. But, basically, this is your story. Like I said, live in your truth, live your story. You never know who you're helping. You know what I mean? So whatever your truth is, you have to follow your heart and just live what you feel.
I absolutely love that. And I think so often we're never the authors of our own story. So many other people are writing it. We're living off of others' expectations. We're not really standing in our truth. And if anybody was to listen right now, hopefully they were to pick up some of the gems that you dropped and the stories of how you were resilient, the stories of how you remained faithful, the story of how you chose not to stay, and how you continue to progress forward and defy the odds, how you continue to show up for yourself today by owning your truth, being authentic, believing that you're beautiful, affirming yourself so that you could really be able to affirm and empower other women out there as well, from all backgrounds and just other people as well. And I believe those are the things that help people magnify voices and be able to monetize their message. And anybody listening right now, I want you personally to go like, subscribe, and buy 10 copies of her new book and get ready for the sequel. And hopefully we see your movie on Netflix very soon. But thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Writer's Game podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. And we'll see you guys next episode.